Hello, this is our Rats. I'm logged on to free internet chess server or FICS. I'm going to play a 15-minute game, see what happens. I'll put out a seek here in a moment. As white, I'll play the King's Indian attack, or also as I've been calling it, the chess opening for you. And as black, I'll play either a Nimzovich or a Chigorin defense. And it's going to take the first challenge. Oops, there are no offers to accept. Okay, let's see. Seek. Okay, we want a 15-minute game. Standard, random color. Okay, see how quick it takes to get a game started. And I'll share all my thoughts, all my candidate moves, anything I can. And just waiting for someone to accept. Shouldn't take too long. It never does. Of course, it's 5:30 in the morning where I'm at. So maybe we're not going to get a challenge. Well, I'm sure we will pretty quick here. Good, I got a game. Okay, d4. Now I play d5. Let's see what he does. He's going to play c4. Yep. Okay, so now go into Chigorin defense to see which line he picks, and hopefully I can remember the analysis. Okay, knight c6. Okay, I like to play d takes c here. I can also play e5. That's another line I play. Okay, knight d4. Now queen d4 I play f6 against. Lesson 003 has 3 games with that. Well, he didn't play it. Okay, now I got to remember this. I think I play e5 next. Let's see, e5. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's e5 here. If not, I'll find out. Okay, now I've got open diagonals for both my bishops, so this is good. Now I'll park a bishop on d6. Now I've got pieces poised onto the king side for a potential king side attack. Now I'm just going to anchor the bishop in on d6 here. Okay. Now my goal is to play knight f6 and castle kingside. Okay, so he'll probably castle and I'll castle. Now one thing I can do is maybe consider knight from f6 to h5 to hop it into f4. Oh, he's going to take there. He's going to do that. Okay, so I'm not too worried about an exchange here. Let's see. I'm controlling e5, so I don't mind if he takes there. Let's see. Time to stop and think. Knight h5 sure looks tempting. Knight h5. He can push, he can take. Pushes f pawn or take on e5. Let's see. How about, of course, knight g4 is kind of interesting. It threatens to hop into e3. Let's see. I have bishop c5 check available. Don't really see much gain in that. Let's see, so suppose I just take his pawn. E takes, knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes. Queen d6 threatens the rook and threatens the check. Let's do that. Let's see, takes. Queen d6. I'm on his rook, I'm on his bishop. I'm on this square, so his rook has to go to f2. Then I play knight g4 and mess him up. Okay, let's give it a try. Let's see how it works. Okay, so now he's got to deal with a little tactic here. See, sometimes you just have to stop and go over things. You don't want to rush. You have to calculate a few things and not hurry. So, put him in a little dilemma here. And if I rush too quick, I can miss things like this. So it's one of the advantages of playing a slower time control. I might not have seen all this in a 3-minute game or a 5-minute game. I might have. But why should we judge ourselves by how quick we can find something? You're trying to play good chess, right? You're not going to play good chess playing 3-minute and 5-minute. You just play those to practice your tactics and openings and middle games. So you might be able to survive this if he sacrifices a pawn with e5. Well, he just gives me his rook. Wow. He didn't have to do that. Okay, so let's see. He's on my knight. I'll just go attack h2 and e5. So he doesn't want to play rook f1 here. That would lose instantly. Let's see. Okay, so now I can check. King there. Queen check. Mate.
Check. Game over.
And what a lucky game. Now does he want a rematch? He does. Okay. We will let him play. Accept. Okay. Now I'm just going to go through with the normal setup of the King's Indian attack, also known as the chess opening for you. So you can play c5 and make it a Sicilian, and that he does. Okay, we're kind of in a Sicilian, but I'll continue to play King's Indian attack formation. Now he should be shoving his queenside pawns up the board. A6, b5, b4. But this is fine. I don't mind if he does that. That's just a common strategy. I'm going to do what I do. Okay, so now everything deployed as I want it. I'm going to try to open up c4 so I can occupy that square. I'll be doing that by a4. They can play a6, but that's all right. I'll just take it, and I have the a file. Okay, good. Thank you. Now I do have to watch that c3 doesn't hang at some point, because he could exchange on c3 and then move his knight to some square and attack. But the objective here is that I want the knight on c4. It's a good square for it. Okay, but I'll be playing queen d2 in just a moment, and I should be fine on c3. It's the one loose square I have. Okay, so he wants to take it. Well, you know what? We'll let him take it. I don't mind if he takes that knight. He spent a little time doing it. Okay, let's see. e4 would hang, so if I move my queen, I've got to put it on c2. Then if he takes, I take back with the d pawn. And e4 is covered. Okay, let's see. If I play queen c2 and he plays b3, my queen gets kicked, and I've got to move it somewhere. Where do I want to move it? Yeah, it could get a little tricky here, so let's see. Suppose we just mess them up a little bit and play knight f d2. That way I try to keep a knight on c4, and it prepares a few other possibilities here. Okay, knight f d2. See how he handles that. Okay, now I've got tactical shots on the long diagonal h1 to a8. If I get a timely e5 in, I'm also covering b3 a little better if I want to play queen c2. Let's see. I kind of want to get queen c2, and I want to just cover c3. I just don't want it to be loose. Although in some cases I want queen d2 in so I can play bishop h6, but he's forcing my hand here. Okay, so now I'll just go ahead with queen c2. I could play knight e5. And now if I take, he takes back with a knight, and I can play f4. I've got to watch out for d3 hanging. That should be okay here. Okay. Well, maybe not. I might have missed something here. But that's okay. Okay, good. Okay, so knight e5, one of his knights d5 is probably a good move, and I have to step just a little bit carefully here. Because simply for the fact that d3 may be hanging. Okay, so let's see. Of course, I can accept the double pawns, and that's okay. I want a little more out of this if I can get it, but d3 is of minor concern here, so let's see. If I take, he takes with the knight, and I can push c4. Now that hangs my rook, but he's got to do something with it. Get away. Let's see. The knight has to move to a good square where he can attack the rook, and if he sacks it for a pawn, let's see. Knight takes c4, I just take, and then I get two pieces for the rook. So, of course, alternative. If I play f4, I've kind of shut the mobility of my bishop down a little bit. Weaken g3. Don't necessarily want to do that. I can play knight b2 here. That's kind of tactical. You can sack the exchange on b2, and then take on d3. He's only getting a pawn for it. And the idea of that is that then I kick with f4, drive his knight away, and bring my knight back to c4. That might be a little kind of a deep, subtle maneuver here. Kind of attracted to that. Let me think about it one more time before I move. Knight b2. Okay, rook takes b2, queen takes b2. I'm fine if he takes with the knight or the bishop. That's okay. So he's got to find a good move. What's he going to play? Queen b6. Yeah, queen b6. Well, then I just play rook a b1. Of course, then I'm lined up on d3, but his queen's in the way, so he can't really take on b2. He can't do that. See? Okay. It's kind of one of these subtle maneuvers I just want to try. I get fascinated by it. Is it impulsive? Maybe. But do you see the point of it? We're going to play the knight to b2, kick the knight out of e5, and then bring the knight back to c4, just to frustrate him. Okay, here we go. Let's try it. I like this. I like to play chess like this. When you come up with these deep little subtle maneuvers. Okay. So f4 is my intent, and then bring the knight back to c4. If he plays knight b6, I still play f4, and then I kick the other knight with a5. That'll mess him up. Okay, so not too worried about queen b6 in this position. I'll just play rook fb1. I could also play rook a2. But he can't stop f4 coming, kicking his knight out, letting me get back to c4 with my knight. Like I say, I just want to do that because it looks like a fun maneuver, and hopefully be some kind of instruction for you guys and gals that are watching this to consider when you're maneuvering your minor pieces. We got development about even. Okay, queen a5. Now what's he on? Anything I should worry about? F4. We could get a couple pawns here. Let's see. F4, rook takes, queen takes. Now he plays knight takes d3. Okay. Now he's on my queen. My queen has to move, and he's also on c3. So let's see. Did he refute my plan? Maybe he did. Let's see. F4 takes, queen takes, knight takes d3. He's on that. But then again, I'm not too worried about it. I could play knight b3, but that's really no good. He just drops queen back to b6. And then I play rook a3. But I'm trying to control c4 here. So f4, rook takes, queen takes, knight takes d3. Where can my queen go to give him a hard time? It can't. Okay, I could also play d4, which gives up the exchange. That's no good. Let's see. Well, maybe it is. d4, rook, bishop takes. Okay. I'm on his knight. Where's his knight go? Back to c6. Kind of looking at this exchange sacrifice. It's kind of interesting. d4 takes, knight c6. Now I have e5 and I have d5. d5 attacks the knight again. Plus I'm getting my knight into c4. Yeah, I'm going to sacrifice the exchange. I just want to try it out. Let's make this kind of interesting. I'm going to give up the exchange. Allow him bishop takes f1 just to sacrifice an exchange. I just want to see how it comes out. Because he gets too active collecting pawns for this exchange he'd sacrifice. So I'm not going to let him sacrifice an exchange. I'm going to sacrifice an exchange. A little risky. I've used up a lot of time, but I'm just here for fun and for instruction and to give you folks an idea how to plan your chess. Of course, if he just moves his knight, well, then I just play knight c4. But if he just moves his knight, I'm fine here. So this kind of takes the blunt out of it. Oh, he took. Okay, so that's fine. It could transpose if he takes my rook. Of course, he also has rook fc8. Let's see. Of course, I can mess him up a little bit. I can take with the bishop, and he won't have the open file. And I'm still going to get f4 in, and I'm going to be on a7. So I'm going to take with the bishop. Just a little impulsive on my part. You know, I'm sacrificing material here just for the sake, because I think I've got a decent position here, and it's like I'm not bad off here. I've used up a little time, and I don't even have a pawn compensation for the exchange I've sacrificed, but I wanted to sacrifice an exchange simply for the reason that I think it's a sound continuation here. Okay, so now I can tempo the queen with knight c4 before I do anything else. That makes him go back to, well, he take on d4, counter on me. I'm going to just take his bishop here. Yeah, probably losing this. I don't think my exchange sac was good. But I like to test ideas out, and I'm more into that than anything else. So okay. Let's push the question to his queen. He ran it over to the king side and try to attack. Well, he's not really poised to attack. structurally I've got a kind of weak position, but at least with my pawns. Okay, now I've got to generate some activity here. Okay, he can get a knight to c5 but himself, but he doesn't have much else besides that. So what I need is to keep him out of e5 with a knight. So I'm going to do that and invite him to create some weakness in his position. Like, for instance, if he plays e5, I can play knight e3, and I'm ready to hop into d5 with my knight. Okay, so he does that. That's fine. I don't need to take that. I'm just going to come back to e3 and plan knight d5. Of course, now he has a pin. I've got to watch out for that. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay, now he's on it. That's fine. Okay, now queen d3 has knight c5. Then I have queen d4 check and knight d5. Okay, so this is fine. Yeah, then safeguard that. Okay, 556. I've got some reasonable chances here. Didn't have to give up the exchange, I just wanted to. Okay, he didn't have to do that. Like I say, now I get this check in, and then I'm going to get knight d5 in. Okay, so I've got a little better position for my knight. I'm threatening on e7, which is mate. So let's see. I'd love to be able to play bishop a6 here, but he just takes with his knight. So let's molest his queen a little bit. Queen rook b1. He has to play queen d7. Then I can play bishop b5. Of course, yeah, rook b1. And I'm fine if he wants to give up his queen on b1. Okay, so now bishop b5. Chasing his queen a little bit. His queen's kind of flustered a little, I would say. Wow. Okay, so he's just lost the game. Bishop takes knight, and his queen takes. He gets mated. It gets mated anyway.
Game over.
Wow, interesting game.
Challenge.
Okay, yeah, I have time to play another one. All right, accept. Okay, let's see what you got, pal. Gonna try the Chicorn again. This time I'm gonna play a little differently. I'll play my other line. Okay, now if he plays knight c3, I'm gonna play e5. It's not the best line, but in practice it does okay. Oh, he's gonna do that. Okay, that's fine. All right. Now I play e5. This is similar a lot to the line in the Nimzovich when white plays on e takes d5. Okay, you'll see a lot of the ideas here in a moment. Okay, so first step, we trade queens and keep him from castling. Check. That's the first step, okay? So next step is we're going to start to undermine his defense of e5. Okay, we do this with bishop g4. And prepare to castle with check. The knight can do a little maneuvering, knight from g8 to e7 to g6. Okay, now if I castle right here, the knight's pinned, so I'm getting ready to take it. I'm getting ready to take on f3 and then e5. Okay, so one nice thing about this variation of the Chicorn defense is that black gets his pieces out and he gets an equal game. Notice that I have moves like bishop c5 attacking a pawn. Okay, he thinks he's holding on to his pawn. Well, he really isn't. He's not going to be able to hold on to that. Now he's kind of exposed his king a little bit. I can play knight b4 check and let's see. Kind of hate to do that right away, but it just seems like king c3 is just a mistake. Or king b1. I don't really almost have a mate there. Bishop f5 check e4. Rook takes knight. No, I don't have enough. He can take back with the knight. I can't mate him with bishop takes e4. Okay, so let's see. Bishop c5 is okay here, except that it just helps his development a little bit. He'll play e3. He's trying to hang on to the pawn, and he can't do it. So I'm just going to let him wallow in his misery and find a plan. I'm just going to play knight ge7 and follow it up with knight g6. Okay, so here I don't really want to check on f5 with the bishop because he gets e4 in, and my bishop's kind of embarrassed. So if I take, he takes back with the knight. I can play knight g6, and he's going to drop the pawn back. Okay, so let's see now. Do I want to... Is this the time to try a knight b4 trick? I don't know. Let's see. I'm pretty much sure I'm just going to take on f3. I'm just trying to see if there's anything more here. Okay, I don't see it, so I'm just going to move. Now I play knight g6 next move. And again, bishop c5 I'm holding in reserve because if he plays e4, it just kind of messes his pawn structure up. Okay, he's going to do that. I'm not too worried about that. Let's play rook d7 here. Okay, he could give back the pawn with e6, but let him. So I'm slightly ahead in development because my rook's out and his isn't, and he's not ready to develop his king's bishop. And he did play e6. Well, that's okay. He has to give the pawn back. I don't necessarily mind that. Notice I've saved the knight check. Okay, he plays e3. Now I can get back the bishop pair here. Bishop, or take away his two bishops with h6. Where's he going to go? If he goes to h5, I put his knight out of play. And if he goes to f4, I mess up his pawns. Yeah, I'll just do it. Okay, put the question to his bishop. He's got to play bishop h4, I'm pretty sure. Okay, now he's going to threaten knight g6. So he's got knight g6 and bishop b5 as his main theme that I have to deal with. I'm just going to play bishop d6 here. I'm going to keep the d file secure. If he plays bishop b5, then I will check with the knight on b4 and park a rook on the f file. Okay, bishop d6. I don't know, let's see. I'd like to, kind of hate to block the f file. What if I play bishop b4 here? The idea is I'm going to check him on d8. I'm sorry, d7. So if he plays bishop b5, I check. I guess I'm okay with double pawns. I'm getting on the 7th. Bishop b4, bishop b5, rook check, king out to b3, threatening to play bishop takes knight and win the bishop. So I have to deal with the bishop's position, so we move it, but we have a tempo on f2, so I'll do it. Bishop b4. Let's just threaten to check. This will invite him to play rook d1, and I can get both my rooks into play. I mean, trade a rook and then bring the other one over to d8 with check. So I'm inviting rook d1 here. He'd really... Okay, he played there. All right, now fine. Now I'm just going to play a6 and keep his bishop out of b5. Okay. So he wants that pawn. Well, you can't have it. Sorry, pal. It's not for there. Not for the taking. Okay, do I want to defend it? Do I want to push it? Let's see. I was thinking about defending it. e5. Oh, he plays bishop e6. Can't have that. Okay. So we stop and defend it. Then we're going to chase that bishop out of there in a moment with b5. Okay, let's see. Rook d1. I'll play b5. Okay, well, that's fine if he goes there. If I put the bishop on c5. I can kick it again. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back to f8. I'll try to get it into play on the g7 on g7 in a little bit. So he's prepared, cleared a2 for his bishop. So I don't necessarily want to play b5 now, but I do want to play at some point e5. Okay, so he played b5, or b4 rather. Now let's see. If I play e5 here, he plays rook d8. I play e4. Why don't I go back to my other plan? g6. g6 with bishop g7, just getting the bishop on a better square. Might have to go into bishop opposite colors here, but not too worried about that. Let's see, g6. Because I've got to get that bishop redeveloped. Okay. Maybe not the prime example how to play this position, but it will have to do. He's caught up in development. I have an extra pawn island. I'm not losing this. Don't really have a discernible advantage. I'm trying to maneuver my pieces around to see if I can't create one or if he'll make some kind of an error. And if he puts a rook on d1, I'll let him take on d7 and take back with the king, and I should be fine with my king position there. I'll just move it to e7, but my bishop's going to be on the long diagonal. That's my long-range plan now. Okay, king b3, that doesn't really help him, that I can tell. Okay, so bishop g7 just to keep him out of d4. Okay. Okay, he's got a tactic here. He wants to play bishop a6. Well, fine. I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to let you. So where do I want to redeploy the knight to? knight to d8 to f7 to d6. Seems like an idea. Okay. Slow maneuvering here with no discernible advantage. Just an even game. And that's what you want with black. You want an even game. Okay? Objectively, a grandmaster could win this with white. Objectively, a grandmaster could win with this with black. I'm down 3 minutes on the clock, so I've got to move a little quicker here. But I'm just, like I say, going for redeployment. The knight will go to d6 and e4. I'm trying to maneuver the knight there. I've covered the weakness on e6 with my rook, and his knight really can't come in to d4. And if anything, I'll just take it at some point if I have to. But now my strategy, like I say, is knight f7 to d6 to e4. And he has time to deal with all that. Again, if he wants to swap rooks, I'll let him do it. And my king will come up to d7 and be sitting there fine. And if he checks it again, so what? He's got to probably find a better square for his knight. I'm not sure where he'll want to send it, but getting some time back on the clock. So sometimes, when you have pieces on the board, you don't want to trade them. Like there's maybe some options to trade minor pieces. I'm just trying to avoid exchanges and keep them on the board, keep the strategic imbalance as it is. The pawn structure is imbalanced. The fact that there's opposite colored bishops is imbalanced. The fact that the opposite colored bishops can be combined with rooks or knights keeps an imbalance here. So I don't really want to trade knights. But if I have to, I don't want to trade all the rooks. That'll just go into a drawn ending. We're trying to avoid going into drawn ending when we can, as long as we're trying to muster up some winning chances. And, you don't always get what you want out of a game, and you got to make something out of it. And the more pieces I keep on the board, the more chances I have to develop some ideas here. So, unfortunately, this is going to have to be the last game. I'm going to have to get ready to go to work. I'd like to play this guy again after this, but we'll just have to play again later. You can find me. Okay, where did he play? A4? Well, that just doesn't seem to help him. He's planning B4, I guess. So I'll just go about my way with knight d6. Now I'm planning knight d6 and knight e4. Of course, he can cover e4 with bishop d3, but then he's lined up on the same file as my rook. Okay, so I guess I have to deal with that. He takes with the bishop. I push c6. Of course, I'm not attacking it. I could play a5 here, keep the pawn on the board, but that kind of reduces the mobility of my my pawns. Let's see, my bishop would cover it. Where's he attack it? With the knight on c5. I'm tempted to play a5 here, just to keep the position complicated. Knight e5. Then when I play knight d6, he plays bishop d3, and he's on g6. And I push. Well, actually, I don't have to play that. I can play knight f5. Yeah, I'm going to keep the pawns on the board. I want to test this out. a5. Just want to make this thing complicated for him, make him sort his way through. So now I'm planning knight d6 and either knight e4 or in knight f5. Okay, I don't mind if he trades, but I'm not ready to trade rooks here. Okay, knight d6, bishop d3, knight f5. He could play g4. And my knight's got to move somewhere. So let's see. Knight d6, bishop d3, g5. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, knight d6. And I may or may not play to f5 next move. So, probably going to play bishop d3, then I have to make up my mind. Knight f5, g4, knight e7. Oh, okay. Let's see. I think I can do okay out of this. Okay. He's on e6, so I've got to deal with that, right? Okay, so two ways to deal with it. Of course, he can be walking into a pin here. Knight takes. If he takes with the rook, I have e5, and he's pinned. And if he takes with the king, so he takes with the king, I can still play e5 on his knight. Well, I pretty much have to take on c4 here. Let this clarify a little bit. Okay, so he takes with the king. Now, if I play e5, he can play knight b3, and he's on my pawn. And then he can plan to shove e4, getting a pawn on a white square. So do I want to take on d4? Takes, king takes. Okay, what's he attacking I should worry about? Nothing, right? So if I play rook f7, I'm on his pawn, but he can deal with that. Oh, I'm running out of time. Takes. So if I can get intrigued with chess positions, forget all about the clock. That's the beauty of chess. You can just sit and look at it forever. Rook d5 is a mistake because he has knight takes e6. If I take on d4, he has to take with the rook. And I can take with the rook again with check. And I've got, I'm just going to, it might be a draw. I don't want to lose the game on time. I want to try to cover some illustrative point. I'm just going to go into a rook ending. I'd love to keep the minor pieces on, but otherwise I'm just going to lose this game on time and ruins it. So we can examine some things about rook endings instead. Can't always get what you want. Okay, now he's got a dilemma.
Check.
If he takes with the pawn, he's got an isolated pawn. If he takes with the king, I've got open lines.
Game over.
What did he do? Lost contact or quit. Game adjourned. Well, phooey. I have to go to. Your opponent has lost contact or quit. I guess we wait for him for a moment. Okay, basically, king takes d4 is his best move. Now I can check. He comes up to d6. I stick my, or e5, attacking e6. I stick my rook on the 7th, and he can take on e6, and I can take on f2. It's complicated. It's very double-edged. We can't try to solve this all right here. Here and now. But anyway, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go cut this one short. And I want to thank everybody for your time. I guess I'll figure out, I guess this is an adjourned game. I'll try to get a hold of this guy and finish it out, do some study on it, and play it another time. Thanks, everyone, for your time. Have a great day. I've got to go to work. Bye.